Da, na, na, na. All right. I'm not seeing the video. Okay, there we go. All right, so we are live. Before we start, got to do some housekeeping. We're going to get right into the show after that. If you are here, welcome. And if you are interested in buying a hat, you guys know that I'm starting to sell merch. I have one on. Here's another one. This is what it looks like. Here's the side. Let me go ahead and pop that out for you. This is what the hats look like. If you're interested in buying one, absolutely, they will be under the video per usual. Now that we've got that housekeeping out of the way, we got quite a few things to talk about. We're going to talk about Nick Fuentes and his interview over there with Piers Morgan and some of the talking points that happened over there and how I think it went generally. And I think Piers Morgan didn't do himself any favors with that interview. We're going to talk about Elon Musk. He was talking about his experience with Doge and why it failed and what he would have done differently had he had the opportunity to do it again. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk about Miami. I think we're going to start with talking about Miami. This has been a Republican-led city for almost 30 years. And because the Trump administration is ruining America, essentially, it's flipped to a Democratic city. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the details of that a little bit. We may talk about this entire Tim Pool and Candace Owens back and forth. And the final thing we're going to wrap up with is this debacle with the $12 billion bailout that Trump is going to give the farmers. So we're going to try to run through everything and get into it all. But if not, then there will absolutely be individual videos about these topics. Before we get into the actual stories, I want to talk about this thing with Erica Kirk. We know that September 10th, there was that tragedy with Charlie Kirk. Absolutely horrible. I know a lot of people made fun of him. A lot of people were grieving him. The dude was, he was a big personality. I said at that time that I did not think that I thought it was insensitive for people to make fun of him. I also said I thought that Erica Kirk was acting very strange for someone that had just, lost her spouse. A lot of people shared that sentiment. A lot of people said, oh, well, she's kind of out and about. This must be a very strong lady. When I made that video, I had quite a few people down in the comments like, oh, you wouldn't understand. She has the love of Christ. And I thought that was hilarious that they would have that reaction. But, people are entitled to their view. Fast forward, she had the debacle where she's running her hands through J.D. Vance's hair. He's grabbing her around the waist. Just a lot of odd things that are going on with her since that tragedy that happened with Charlie Kirk. Now, Candace Owens has been nonstop talking about the situation, doing her own investigation. There's been quite a bit of hyperbole, as we expect with Candace Owens, over the past 3 months, right? So now, on the 3-month anniversary of Charlie Kirk passing, it seems that Erica Kirk is tired of it. So Erica Kirk takes to Fox News as she's doing all of this press run where she's pretending like she's crying, she's dabbing her eyes, very theatrical, in order to respond directly to what it is that Candace Owens has been saying and doing. So I want to pull that up, and then I promise we're going to get into these other topics that we are talking about today. So let's get into that.
Come after me, call me names, I don't care. Call me what you want, go down that rabbit hole, whatever. But when you go after my family, my Turning Point USA family, my Charlie Kirk Show family, when you go after the people that I love, and you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode going after the people that I love because somehow they're in on this, no.
I have to say it. I've never seen you like this.
No, this is.
I've got to say, not only do I not believe this, she's more upset about people, Candace Owens specifically. Candace Owens has the biggest platform that's been repeatedly talking about this. She's more upset that Candace Owens has been bringing up this topic and basically litigating it on her YouTube show for the past couple of months than she was about the actual incident that happened to her husband. She's more upset about this. She's more upset that people are being accused or people are being looked at sideways or more information is being put out by Candace Owens than was put out by the FBI, by Kash Patel. And that's pretty evident.
Righteous anger, because this is not okay. It's not healthy. This is a mind virus. Yes, I believe in our judicial system. I do. We have a hell of a team working on this, excuse my French. But this is not okay.
So you want to put these people back in the box where they've been creeping from?
I don't care what box you're in. But just know that your words are very powerful, and we are human. My team are not machines, and they're not robots. They are human. We have more death threats on our team and our side than I have ever seen. I have kidnapping threats. I have, you name it, we have it. And my poor team is exhausted. And every time they bring this back up, what are we supposed to do? Relive that trauma all over again? They watched my husband get murdered. I have no idea how I would have reacted if I was there that day. And thank the good Lord that I did not have to see that happen. But my team, they are rocked to the core. So why every single day do they have to be dragged through the mud, analyzed, hyper-analyzed?
You know,
sit in a
The reason why is because the FBI wasn't forthcoming with details, right? Kash Patel fumbled it. Things did not look as they seemed, right? So if you want to see Candace Owens's 3-month breakdown of everything that she thinks is going on, the text messages that were supposedly from friends and family, and how this person or that person was involved, and you can go do that on her channel. But I just wanted to show Erica Kirk's reaction because it was a lot more visceral in this instance than when Charlie Kirk actually was, taken out. She came on stage and she said, "This widow's tears will echo like a battle cry." Like everything that she's done in the media, like in public that I've seen, has been it's like she's trying to reenact the movie, which a lot of people in the Trump administration are. Kash Patel, Pete Hegseth, this lady, what's her name? Erica Kirk. All of these people seem to think this is like a movie set, and they're trying to give their best interpretation of what it would be like to react to a situation if it was actually real. I'm not saying that I don't believe that Charlie Kirk was actually assassinated. I'm just saying it seems like everybody's playing to the camera. So that is the brief update on that. And she still makes me cringe every time I see her go viral. So including the time recently she was on stage, like patting her eye every time. It's always I think it's the left eye. It's always the left eye. Don't know what that's about. Anyway, we're going to move on. Let's get into this thing about Miami. So like I said at the top of the show, Miami has been under Republican rule for the past 30 years, right? Until 2025. In 2025, I believe that was yesterday, December 9th, Miami is now going to be under Democratic leadership in terms of the mayor. And we can look none other than to Donald Trump and his administration for why people are heading towards the Democratic Party. For the same reason they're heading towards Mamdani, for the same reason that, Bernie Sanders has been popular for the past 10 years. Everybody is worried about and everybody is concerned about, say it with me, class, affordability. Yes, that is the correct answer. Donald Trump at one point said, affordability is the new Democratic hoax, and then he turned around and said, yeah, we're going to work on getting prices down and all of this stuff. But then he already claims that prices are the lowest they've ever been. So you can never keep up with one Donald Trump. But this lady that is over in Miami, she's winning because the Trump administration, all of these promises that they said they were going to do in order to help people win in America in 2025 through 2029, they're not playing out exactly how the Trump administration has said. So people, understandably, are looking to their left and looking to their right and saying, okay, how can I get a better bang for my buck? We've been trying this thing with these Republicans for so long. Miami, they did vote for Kamala Harris majority. The majority of people did vote for Kamala Harris in 2024. But these people are looking left and looking right and saying, how can I actually get a winning edge in this Trump administration when every single thing that he does is we're worse off every Friday. We come in Monday, there's some new bullshit that happened over the weekend, and by Friday, we're in a worse position. So let me go ahead and pull up my So here we have Trump's endorsement of obviously the Republican candidate. It says Miami's mayor race is Tuesday. It is big and an important race. Vote for Republican Gonzalez. He is fantastic. You can also vote today. Make America great again. So there you have it. Trump tried to give his endorsement. He tried to push his weight in order to get the person that he thought was the best for the job, the Republican nominee. And there's two things here that are important. First of all, not only did the Republicans lose, I think it was like 59 to 41 or something like that. It was a huge spread, right? And from what I can tell, I believe this was Brian Cohen. He said that there was a 67-point lead that the Republicans had in the last mayoral election, right? So that is a huge swing. To be up 67 and then down by about 18 is a huge swing. Republicans are getting mollywopped. And this is going to continue, as long as the Trump administration is enacting all of these bad policies and they're having to do bailouts for Argentina and they're having to do bailouts for farmers, and they're doing all of this escalated immigration enforcement. They're going to continue, and they're escalating stuff over in Venezuela. We're going to continue to see this type of trend where Democrats are winning in places where we would normally expect a Republican to win. People are not happy with what's going on as a result of what the Trump administration is doing. So let me pull up this Axios article because I do want to go through this and I do want to talk about what they report over there. Let me see if I can find it. And in the meantime, let me know if you were privy to the Miami race and what your thoughts are on that. Give me 1 second. I apologize. Okay, I can't find it. Anyway, let us go back. So it says Aileen Higgins became the first Democratic mayor of Miami in almost 30 years. So like we said, they're not vibing with the Trump administration. The stuff that they're doing, the stuff that they're trying to implement, people are feeling like they're getting the short end of the stick. And come 2028, come 2026, the elections of 2026, we're going to see Democrats pick up more leverage and more seats in the House. And, this people think that it started with Mamdani, but it really didn't start with Mamdani. It started with Trump. He started talking about affordability last year, and people were saying, hey, he's going to come in, he's going to do the tariffs, he's going to get all the immigrants out. We're going to be able to essentially thrive. And that seems not to be the case. So I really want to pull this Axios article up. So you're going to have to excuse me. Let me just put this waiting signal up for a second. Okay, I am back. I appreciate your patience. So this article says, who is Aileen Higgins, Miami's first Democratic mayor in 30 years? Aileen Higgins defeated a Trump-backed candidate Tuesday night in a runoff election to become Miami's next mayor. So, we've already talked about it being 30 years since a Democrat has won, but just think about how much cachet Trump had in 2024. Anybody that he threw his weight behind in the Republican Party, we thought, oh, this guy, he won. He beat Kamala Harris by such a landslide. Anything that Trump says it does, people are essentially agreeing with. They think it's excellent. And, he started the year, people said this is going to be Make America Great Again 2.0. All of the rise in the stock market that we had, we're going to continue whatever Trump was doing in his first term that was positive. People thought that it was going to continue. And he thought that he was going to be able to use that momentum to control the Republican Party. He can't even help get somebody elected when he's throwing his weight behind him. So it says Higgins becomes the first Democrat to win the position in nearly 30 years, overcoming a recent trend of Republican gains in South Florida. She is also the first woman to be elected mayor of Miami. I actually don't care about that part, if I'm being completely honest, that she's the first woman. I do care about where her politics are as a Democrat. And apparently the people over in Miami, they agree with her. They elected her. And she had an overwhelming hurdle to beat when, there's been nobody of like a Democratic ideology there for 30 years. So shout out to her. She absolutely accomplished something that has not been accomplished by decades and decades of politicians. It says Higgins, a staple in the Miami area, has teased larger political campaigns in the past and has spent time testifying for Congress. So she definitely has some notoriety over there. That's good. She's got some name recognition. That probably helped her beat Emilio Gonzalez, who was supported by Trump. It says Higgins and Gonzalez ran an anti-corruption platforms following years of political scandal in the government. I've never been prouder to be a Democrat. We're living in the state of Florida where we have people that are building cages for our residents rather than affordable housing for them. Obviously, if you're not tracking, they're talking about Alligator Alcatraz. Alligator Alcatraz is housing illegal immigrants on their way to being deported. And there's already been a bunch of coverage about that, and I've talked about that in the past, but they had like toilets flowing, they don't have like proper AC, and it's essentially it's not necessarily like a storage container, but that thin sheet metal that some buildings have, it's one of those like that you would have as a garage if you lived way out in the country or something. It's essentially one of those, and it has cages that people live in. So obviously Floridans are not vibing with the Republican policy. They're not vibing with people that are aligning with Trump, and they don't want any more Alligator Alcatraz going on down there, especially the people of Miami. So they get into her background a little bit. I don't really care where she's from. Let's get into her career, though. It says Higgins has been serving in Miami for nearly a decade. Higgins volunteered for a number of council and task forces in Miami. She also volunteered for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation per her LinkedIn page. She was in the Peace Corps, but her career really took off when she became the Miami-Dade County Commissioner in 2018, when she gave herself the nickname La Gringa. Okay, the white lady, I guess. She held the position ever since, even winning automatic re-election last year. Okay, so that's who she is. And, this is very interesting. Like we said, people are not caring who Trump backs. They're not caring who the Republican candidate is. What they're looking for is somebody that's actually going to address their problems. Trump said he was going to be that guy. He turns out not to be that guy. His administration is more concerned about bombing Venezuela, trying to essentially get their oil, and they're bringing it on drugs. They're worried about making social media posts and owning the libs. And their concern has not been the American people, right? They're giving $40 million bailouts to Argentina. They're sending foreign aid to other countries that are at war. And people are just like, yo, we have 42 million people in this country that can't eat, and you're continuing to do social media posts and sending money elsewhere. So I'm glad to see this. And I hope that we see more of this type of politics where people have to actually focus on the issues. And it's not just the Trump propaganda that is driving where we go. So if you have any thoughts on Higgins, drop them down in the comments. But that's where I'm going to leave it for this segment. Now, I told you that we were going to talk about this Piers Morgan and Nick Fuentes interview. So, as I've said ad nauseum, I seem to do like a Nick Fuentes video at least once every other time that I go live, or at least once a week, right? Nick Fuentes, he's a racist, he's a misogynist, he's an anti-Semite. He's all the gambit of negative characteristics and adjectives you could throw at somebody. And he says that much himself. So this is not me claiming that he is. This is him claiming he is. And this is me repeating what he said. There's a part in the Piers Morgan interview where Piers Morgan brings up something that Nick Fuentes says on his show about his dad basically also echoing some racist sentiments when he was younger. So Piers Morgan asks him, he says, hey, would you say that your dad is a racist? He calls his name, Bill Fuentes. He repeats the story that Nick Fuentes pointed out. And Nick gets upset. He gets very upset and it's like, hey, you're accusing my dad of being a racist. I think the audience knows what you're doing. I don't like what it is that you're doing. So Piers Morgan says, hey, you've put that information about your dad in the public domain. How are you saying that you don't want this to be exposed, but you expose it yourself? Obvious hypocrisy. It's actually a thing that Nick Fuentes does quite often. He'll say one thing and then contradict himself on another, some other point. What I want to do is play his response because, you know, I do to a certain extent understand, like, hey, you know, I'm the person that's the public figure. I'm the person that's espousing these ideas. I don't necessarily want to drag my family into it and them to be affected. But like Piers Morgan said, you did put it in the public domain. Your family is up for criticism once you make that decision. But let's get into Nick's response. Oh, actually, here's...
So my question, based on that anecdote that you say on your own podcast.
So here's the clip. I didn't know that I had the clip set aside, but we're going to watch it and you guys can see for yourself.
Do you think you grew up in a racist environment, that your father was inherently racist and that thought process moved to you?
Well, I would say it's a new low. I've been attacked for being a racist many times, but to attack my father, to attack my parents based on anecdotes, I would say that's sort of a new low.
Hang on, it's your anecdote.
Yeah, but he's not here to defend himself.
You are.
And my parents are.
You told the story.
And I will. And I'll
I'm not trying to ambush you. As I said at the start, Nick, to be clear.
No, it's not an ambush.
Nick, to be clear,
I think
I'm
everybody
not
understands.
ambushing you. I'm literally reading an anecdote that you revealed on your podcast. It's you that's put it in the public domain.
I know.
I'm simply asking you whether my assessment of that, which is that your father didn't want to take you to certain restaurants because of what you refer to as, they were commonly known as black fare, whether that attitude to African Americans in that instance permeated to you. It's a reasonable question.
I agree with Piers Morgan. It is actually a reasonable question. You put it out in the public domain. You said that your father said this. You're here being interviewed about it. So I question you about it. And I also agree that, you know, his father didn't bring up the incident. So it's kind of like, damn, you threw your own father under the bus. But you did bring it into the public domain to be discussed. So how can you be upset at that? Any consequences that your dad has to face, he really has to blame you for it. So that was Pierce's question. Do you think that you had a racist upbringing and that has affected your ideology? And I don't necessarily know the answer to that, but Nick has 100% said, hey, I'm a racist. I believe this about black people. And he goes on to tell a story. We're going to get to his response, but he goes on to tell a story like, oh, well, my parents did business with black people and they taught black people how to firearms and self-defense training with their business. And I thought that was a little bit stupid as a response. And the reason why is he's not saying that his parents necessarily like black people. He's saying, okay, but my parents did business with black people. They took their money and, you know, they welcomed them into their business in order to profit from the black community, even though they had these ideas about going in restaurants that black people might have frequented. If you're going to espouse that same ideology, then you could say, okay, well, slave owners that had black children are not racist, or mulatto children are not racist. Do you see how that ideology doesn't necessarily carry? You could still do things that denigrate and disrespect a certain race of people while also doing something that benefits you with when that other race is involved. So I didn't like Nick's response. I thought that was it wasn't well thought out, but so let me try to go to his actual response to this that he plays on his show. Here we go.
That was so shitty what he did with my father. Because he knows what he's doing. He says he doxed my dad too. He says my father's name and then says, oh, your dad's racist and this is his name. That was low. And everyone knows what he was doing there. Everybody knows. And now you put a target on my dad. I hope you know that. So I hope you're happy with yourself. And that is out of line, actually. Family should be off limits. I'm in the arena. You want to call me a racist? I'm the one doing the show. My father's not a public figure. He's not political. So that
can be very true, but you shouldn't have brought up the story in the first place. Like, if you don't want your father to be mentioned, if you don't want people to clip it out and quote it and bring it into the public domain, and you don't want that out there about your father because it may have some backlash, then you probably shouldn't have opened that door in the first place. But it is kind of dirty, on the other hand, for Piers Morgan to bring that up and then name his father. So people are going to be looking at that interview, which has I think it had 2.5 million yesterday when I watched it. There's going to be a ton of people that watch that and say, yo, they're going to go to work with this guy and be like, yo, what's going on here? And he's going to have to explain that. He's going to have to be accountable for that.
That's the only part that did bother me, because that is bullshit. And I won't get mad. You can attack me all you want. I don't care. But, my father, leave him out of it. He's a civilian. And that was low. I mean, you should know better than that. You're on television. You've got 1 million+ followers on Twitter. You're a major celebrity. You're naming a random private person. And he knows that he's inciting political attacks on my dad and my family and my parents' fucking livelihood. My parents have cancer. They're fucking sick. And they're at retirement age. And they're working their fingers to the bone trying to retire, trying to fucking stay alive. And he got douchebag calling him racist.
See, this is what I don't like. This is one of the things I don't like about Nick. Every time he faces some sort of controversy, he makes himself out to be the victim, right? He did this with Tucker Carlson. He did it with Candace Owens, and now he's doing it with Piers Morgan. You like to say whatever it is that you want to say. You think everything is permissible. You don't think anything is off limits. But when other people also handle you the same way, you're saying, okay, well, that's not fair, or that was out of context, or this was a joke. If you want to be gloves off with people, you have to also be comfortable with them being gloves off with you. So I thought that part of the interview was, like I said, I've already given you my thoughts on that. It was unfair it was both unfair and fully justified from Piers Morgan to ask him about his upbringing based on the anecdote that he shared on his own show. So how do I think that the thing went overall? Once again, I think Piers Morgan didn't do himself any favors. Nick has a huge and growing audience. Everybody that invites him on, he seems to grow bigger and more ferocious in terms of a media personality. And there's nothing that these older people that are doing, Candace Owens in her 40s, Tucker Carlson probably in his 50s, Piers Morgan in his 50s and 60s. There's nothing that these older people can do to stop the movement that Nick Fuentes has going. When they start discussing his ideas or his ideology, regardless of if you like it personally or if I like it personally, there are people that gravitate to it and they think that Nick is educated. They think he's eloquent. They think that there's a bunch of old people that are trying to censor him and cancel him and put him in his place, which he mentioned to Tucker Carlson a few times. And he just comes out of it to his audience looking better and better. Because if you go to that interview, it's a ton of people. The entire comments are filled with people that are upset about the way that Piers Morgan tried to handle Nick. So there is another part of the interview. I'm going to show you what I mean. There's another part of the interview where Piers Morgan calls Nick an incel. Let's go ahead and pull that up.
misogynist old dinosaur. Basically, you're just a misogynist old dinosaur, aren't you? For a young guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm the boomer. I know I'm the boomer here, but actually, you're a 27-year-old dinosaur, aren't you? Aren't you, Nick Fuentes? All women.
I am.
All women are annoying. All women grow
fossil.
old. They all get fat. Says the guy. Have you ever had sex?
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Says the guy who's never got laid. Basically, you're just a misogynist.
That was dumb on Pierce's part. That was not a good hand to play. And the reason why is Nick multiple times has said he's an incel, but this dude is also a Christian. I know I made fun of him. I did a previous video where I called him an incel, and I do think that some of his ideology is because he doesn't have like these interpersonal relationships. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have a kid. You know, I think some of his ideology is influenced by that, and it may change if he ever has those things, right? He said he wants to get married. He doesn't know. Anyway, this point about him not having sex, this guy said he's a Christian. You're not going to win on an argument where a guy says he's a Christian, he's not married, so he's never had sex. He's going to come out shining on that every time because Piers Morgan has also claimed that he's a Catholic, but you're shaming him for following his religion and not indulging in sex and premarital sex. So that's going to be a losing point, right? Of course, as men, we're going to say, okay, well, what do you know about women? You've never even touched a woman before. But in terms of like a traditional Catholic ideology or a traditional Christian ideology, Nick is living by the thing that he said that he believes in. So, you know, that's another W for him. And that seems to be like, to me, that seemed to be the way the interview went in its entirety. Just Pierce trying to corner Nick saying, hey, like Pierce asked him, are you a racist? Nick said, yeah, I am a racist. So it was like this game of cat and mouse where Pierce wanted to corner him, but there was always a move to be made by Nick Fuentes. I'm not going to get into any more of it. You guys can check it out. I thought it was an interesting interview. I think that Piers Morgan generally does not like Nick Fuentes, and he doesn't like the response. He doesn't like that he couldn't corner him. And I think that, unfortunately, for the people that dislike him and the people that hate him, it was another W for Nick. All right, so you guys let me know what you think down in the comment section. Tell me how the live is going. Tell me what you think. How am I doing? Am I bombing it or am I killing it? I'm not sure. You guys can let me know. All right, let me go ahead. I want to take a brief moment to talk about Doge. So we all know Doge was the fake Department of Government Efficiency. Elon Musk, he came in, said he was going to do all of these grandiose things. He was going to save $2 trillion in the he was going to save $2 trillion he was going to save $2 trillion. He was going to give everybody $5,000 checks, and you know, America was going back to her glory days. And then May last year, he quit. He's like, yo, me and Trump are not getting along. This thing is not going how I want it to go. It's time for me to go back to Tesla. Find out last week or the week before that Doge in its entirety is being disbanded, and the services that Doge was supposed to provide until like July of 2026 are going to be provided by some other government entity that is actually a government entity, unlike Doge, which was made up out of thin air. So here is Elon Musk talking about why Doge didn't work or what he would have done if he could go back in time.
Doge again?
Do you mean whatever?
By the way, this lady is Katie Miller. She is Stephen Miller's wife. If you don't know who Stephen Miller is, I forgot what his title is, but he's the gentleman that was on CNN or Fox or whatever that said that President Trump has plenary power, which means absolute power, right? Then he tried to pretend like his camera froze, even though it was the trees were moving behind him. And she was on Piers Morgan's show as well, and she started calling out Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks about how he was attacking her and he was being anti-Semitic because he said something specifically about her and her husband. So I don't know if I'll insert that clip when I clip it, but this lady, I think that she is out of her mind. She was trying to play victim. She ended up getting skewered in the media, but she's given Elon Musk another chance to do some some propaganda. So here he goes.
Would you ever do Doge again?
Do you mean would I repeat history, or would I?
Two ways to think about it. One is if you could go back and start from scratch, like it's January 20th all again, would you go back and do it differently? And knowing what you know now, do you think there's ever a place to restart you, not saying others in your stead, you go back and restart doing Doge?
I mean, no, I don't think so. Would I do it? I think I probably, I don't know.
Would you do Doge again knowing what you know now?
I mean, the thing is, like, I think instead of doing Doge, I would have basically built, worked on my companies essentially. So, and the cars they wouldn't have been burning the cars.
You gave up a lot to do Doge.
Yeah. Like if you stop money going to going for political corruption, they will lash out big time. Mm-hmm. So
there goes Elon Musk being the perpetual victim. Doge didn't work because he had to go back to Tesla because people were burning his cars because people were so corrupt, and that's why they didn't like his ideas. I'm really tired of these right-wing guys that purport everybody else to be a victim, but they really have the victim mentality themselves. So that is 100% true, right? People were burning the Teslas, but it wasn't because he was getting rid of corruption. It was because you were firing people left and right. You didn't know what the fuck you were doing. You end up having to bring some people back. And because you essentially bought the election for Donald Trump by spending, I think it was like $320 million, you got to get into some sort of pseudo government position and have your way with the American society's data. And essentially you were like a second president. We didn't even say J.D. Vance for the entirety of the time that Elon Musk was in Doge, like 4 or 5 months. So that's why people were upset. That's why people were burning your cars. That's why people don't like you. And as a Tesla shareholder, I was glad for him to go back. So I'm not going to pretend like I didn't benefit from him going back. But you were failing at what it is that you were doing in the government. You got there, and maybe the government is so fucked up that it's endless amounts of corruption. But you got there, you realize that the government is not Twitter. The government is not Tesla. It's structured in a certain way, and you can't just go firing people and cutting this budget and that budget. These things have been built up over time, and most of them exist for a reason. But because you think that you understand everything across the gambit, just because you have money, you thought that you could go in there and clean it up in a year, right? Maybe it does need to be cleaned up, but you're not the guy to be doing that. So shout out to the comment. It says, great and impartial commentary on important topics in the news. I appreciate it. I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. That is my brother. I love you dearly. I appreciate you attending the live. There's another clip that I wanted to share about Elon Musk as well. Elon Musk seems to think that for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because he has money. I don't know if it's because he's white. Whatever the reason is, he thinks that he should have a voice as an immigrant to America, but other immigrants to America should not have a voice, namely some of the Muslim politicians, Zohran Mamdani and Ilhan Omar specifically. Let me pull up this clip because Elon Musk is absolutely out of his mind. Either we all have the right to speak or we don't, or we all don't have the right to speak. There is no in between. That doesn't mean everybody has the right to be heard, right? Everybody has to fight for the opportunity and the privilege of being heard by anybody, but especially the masses. But we all have the right to speak, or nobody has the right to speak. Here's Elon Musk.
Well, let's look at, Ilhan Omar, who was voted into Congress by, a large group of people from Somalia, who are in Minnesota, which is really far from Somalia, or Mamdani, who was voted to be mayor, but by a majority of people who are not born in America. That's my understanding, at least. And then California is a big time situation. So I don't know. We just don't want to turn into a communist hellhole, basically. Well, let's look at.
Okay, we do not want to turn into a communist hellhole. I agree. I don't want the government to own everything. I don't want to be rationed out anything. I don't want the government to tell me, hey, this is where you can live. This is what you can eat. This is how many kids you can have based on the amount of allowance we give you. I don't believe in that at all, right? There's no part of communism that I think is good for America. That is not what Ilhan Omar or Zohran Mamdani represent. We already have a bunch of social programs and democratic social programs in the U.S. already. We could talk about schools. We could talk about the military. We could talk about emergency services like ambulances and fire departments and police. These things are already social programs. When Zohran Mamdani says, hey, I just want to expand certain things. I want to expand certain things to also fit under that umbrella. There are people like Elon Musk that have so much money, that are so greedy, that even when you have hundreds of billions of dollars, you're like, no, nobody can have anything. You can't benefit at all. They want us to all be poor, all be subservient. And he says, these are immigrants. Why are they allowed to have a voice? And what pisses me off is that it's not that these people are immigrants. It's not that Elon Musk is an immigrant. It's honestly the audacity. Why do you think that your voice is any more powerful and needs to be any more vocal, or you deserve to be heard? Is it because of your money? If it is, I'm going to tell you, I don't give a fuck about your money. You can buy, an endless amount of things, and that's all good and well. But we all have the right to speak up. We all have the right to be heard. We all have the right to vote and to be represented by the people that we voted for. Not Elon Musk spending $320 million. He gets to go build up Doge, or he gets to go put his weight on certain elections and saying, oh, well, if you don't do what it is that I want you to do, you're going to get primaried, and I'm going to spend hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in order to silence you. This is not the way our democratic system is supposed to go. And you just saying that you don't like these people because they have constituents that came from the same country that you were born in, right? You were born on, same continent. You were born on the continent of Africa. Ilhan Omar was born on the continent of Africa. And Zohran Mamdani was born on the continent of Africa. So what gives you the authority to say who should not have a voice? The people that voted for Zohran Mamdani over in New York, even if they were immigrants, they are citizens, just like you're a citizen. They have the right to vote. The people that voted for Ilhan Omar, they are citizens. They have a right to vote. They have a right to be represented by who it is that they want to be represented by. You were voted for by nobody and still got access to the White House, still got access to some sort of pseudo government entity, got to spread all your ideas and say what it is that you want and fire people. And then you got to skate off into the sunset once you ruined our fucking government. So I'm going to get off of my high horse, but I really don't like this guy, if I'm being completely honest. I think that Elon Musk is a great businessman, but I also think he is a useful idiot. I think that he thinks he knows more about things than he actually does. I saw a video earlier. He was talking about fashion. Fashion needs to evolve. What the fuck do you know about fashion? You may be able to buy, expensive threaded, like high thread count clothes, or you might be able to buy luxury threads, but you don't know anything about actual fashion, right? This guy comes to the government thinking that he's going to clean it up. because he has a bunch of money. You come there, you ruin it, ruin a bunch of people's lives, and skate back to your company, and then beg for EV credits and the big beautiful bill, right? This is who you are. You're not as intelligent as you think you are. You may be extremely intelligent. I'm not sure. I never had a conversation with you, but you are not who you think you are. So that's enough of that. I'm getting worked up about a guy I've never met, and it's probably not good. I've already got no hair. I don't want to start losing beard hair and growing gray hairs because I have to argue with Elon Musk about what he does and does not know. All right, I think I'm going to do one more before we get out of here. This soybean thing. Let's get into this soybean thing. So we've talked before about the agriculture industry and the issues with Trump's big beautiful bill and his tariff war and all of this stuff. So if you're not aware, let me recap for you. When Trump did I think it was April 2nd, when he did the Liberation Day, he essentially said, hey, we're going to raise tariffs on all of these different countries. Once we start pushing the button on them, they're going to rush to make a deal with America. They did not rush. In fact, some of them took their time. They slow walked it, namely China. China decided that maybe we don't need to do as much business in the agriculture space with America as we previously did. So what did China do? China decided to go get what it is that they need in terms of soy and the agriculture exports that they were getting from the U.S. They said, okay, let me go get them from Argentina. So they've been doing all of these different imports from Argentina to China and excluding the American farmers almost completely, right? Damn near zero exports since Liberation Day. To the point where Trump had to say, okay, this is enough. I see we're not getting anywhere. I see China doesn't want to do business with us. He begged Argentina to stop selling to China. And then he convinced the American people that he was going to trade Forex. Our president, our government has become Forex traders. They said, oh, well, let's go get some money from Argentina and we'll give them $40 billion of U.S. money. They came and they did the propaganda. Oh, this is a good deal for us. The whatever Argentina's currency is. They said, oh, well, it's really low right now. It's going to go high. I'm not interested in being a fucking Forex trader as a U.S. citizen. If you're going to use my tax money, use it for my fucking benefit. Don't give it to Argentina. Now, where we stand today, not only did they give the $40 billion to Argentina, they're supposed to be starting the exports to China again. So kudos to you for that. That's excellent. Even though you derailed the train, if you're getting it back on the track, then, we've looked at the position we got it back on the track. That's excellent. Now he's also given a $12 billion bailout to the farmers. So what you mean to tell me is you started this fight, you got punched in your mouth, you ran and told somebody else, hey, don't beat me up anymore. I'm going to give you some money. I'm going to pay you off so you won't kick my ass in conjunction with this other guy that already punched me in the mouth, and then decided to come back groveling and begging the guy that punched you in your mouth for peace. That's what we just did. We attempted to fight China thinking that we were the bully, got bullied, and it came back begging to be friends. It's embarrassing. $52 billion of our tax money. We pay for this. We pay for this. This is what we're paying for Donald Trump to make fucked up, stupid decisions about the agriculture industry. And to be honest, I'm going to play this clip for you where the farmers are saying, yo, it's not enough. This $12 billion that he's given us is not enough. And to think, we did this all for nothing, all to be back in the position that we were already in. Hey, China, can we sell you these soybeans? Can we do business with you? Can we get these agriculture exports into your economy? We're right back in the position we were before Liberation Day. But we're $52 billion poorer for Donald Trump's decisions.
Bailout, right? So if there were a bailout, right, which the president is apparently considering, what would that mean?
Well, the stopgap needs to come because they've kind of painted the farmer in a corner. I mean, I want trade, not aid. I need a market. I need a place to sell this stuff. I can work hard enough and make a product. If you give me some place to sell it, I'll take care of myself. But they've painted us in a corner with this China deal and China buying no soybeans. I mean, they've tore our market in half. I mean, if you take the 4 years prior to Trump's first tariff war, the average price of a bushel of soybeans is $12.54. The average price for the 4 years during Trump's first tariff war is $9.39. That's a $163 an acre swing to the minus. The next 4 years after the tariff war, the average price is $13.59. That's a $218 upswing. Now we're back to $10.21. I think the board is today. My local elevator's $9.79. So I'm at $172 an acre loss. I mean, the farmer can't continue to produce a crop below the cost of.
So real quick, obviously you can't do business if you're not making a profit at all. By the way, speaking of making a profit, once again, these are the hats. If you would like to buy one, there will be a link down in the description. If you would like to support the channel, that is another way that you can support. Eventually, when my kids get a little older and I have more time to record, I will absolutely love to do, more live streams and bring people up and talk and stuff like that. But this is where we are right now. So if you are interested in supporting the channel, the hats are $27 right now, and they will go up after we reach 10 sales. We're at 8 right now. After these next 2 sales, they're going to go up a few dollars. And it's the holidays. If you love somebody, get them a hat. If you're a supporter of the channel, get a hat. If you're bald, like I am, and need to cover your head, get a hat. This farmer detailed that the Trump administrations are the reason why the agriculture industry has plummeted. He said a couple administrations ago it was good, then it got bad, and then under Biden it was good, and now under Trump it's bad. And I'm taking $72 million loss or whatever the number is. What does that indicate to you? That indicates to you that while Trump does have a base and, he's a funny guy and he's a savage in other times, and he sits with Zoran Mamdani and tells Zoran that he could call him a fascist. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. He's put on the facade that he knows what he's doing. He's put on the facade that he was going to save the coal industry, that he was going to revolutionize the agriculture industry by doing this tariff war with China. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. And just like everybody else, the farmers have to suffer the weight of the bad decisions that the Trump administration continues to make. These people came in with a vision of making America great again. They said, Trump didn't have what he needed the first time. He didn't have the people in place that were going to actually side with him and enact his policies. Good. It was good that in Trump 1.0, he didn't have those yes men to do whatever it is that he wanted to do. Because with this unchecked power, damn near unchecked, it's not literally unchecked, but it's damn near unchecked. With his unchecked power, he is ruining people's lives day by day, whether it be the Doge cuts that he authorized Elon Musk to do, whether it be this tariff war that he started that we ended up losing to China. We lost. When we had to do a $52 billion total bailout, we've lost. When it's blowing up boats in Venezuela, we're losing. The Trump administration is not a winning administration. And what's sad is we have another 3 years of living under this regime. What more are they going to fuck up and then have to course correct in order to get us right back on the track? Kudos to getting us back on the track, right? We don't want to keep spiraling and we don't want to keep doom spiraling, but we never had to get here in the first place. This is the Trump administration's fault. What I want to play for you is another farmer. This is the black guy. That is talking about his experience with these, the loss of industry under Trump. So here we go. Let's check this out.
John, thank you so much for being with us. So how is this $12 billion bailout potentially going to help you?
Well, first I want to comment on the precedent. he said something about this, all this happened on the Biden administration, which is totally false. Agriculture in this country has been in a complete.
That is Trump's game plan. Anytime that something happens under his administration, he wants to shift the blame and say, oh, well, you know, it's not my economy until 12 months in. We're almost 12 months in. He's still saying, oh, well, it's actually Biden's fault. We're not releasing the job numbers. We're not releasing the unemployment numbers. Everything can't be Biden's fault. At some point, you have to be the person responsible. You want the mantle. You have to carry it and bear the weight of the success of your decisions and the downfall of your bad decisions. That just is what it is. But let Mr. John Boyd Jr. finish his monologue.
Turbulence and turmoil in this country since the president got elected. He didn't talk about farm suicides, farm bankruptcies, farm foreclosures, are all up under his watch. And I want to remind the president that we're in the position that we're in such a bad, devastated position in this country because of his tariffs. So I wanted to clean that up from just listening to his comments. And what the president's been talking about is something he talked about back in October. This isn't something new. It's just something that the farmers have not received. And I just done a little reading on this, and it said this proposed $12 billion will not reach farmers until February. And we need the aid now. We was promised the aid back in October. He said he couldn't do it because the government was shut down and all of these things. He had a meeting today with farmers at the National Black Farmers Association with 150.
I don't remember exactly when Javier Milei was celebrating up on stage because Trump gave him the $40 billion. But what do you mean that we can't give the farmers the $12 billion aid package that you promised until 2026? 2 months away, but 3 months away, probably at the time when this was finalized in November when the government was reopened. What do you mean that we can't do that until February, but we can give $40 billion to Argentina? This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about them ruining the economy and ruining people's lives. This farmer, you know, I'm not steeped in agriculture or the cycle in which you need to plant and reap your crops. But these people are saying, hey, we need to get started now. We can't wait until February to buy equipment and buy seeds and start fertilizing the soil. We have to start now. And the Trump administration, as always, is one step behind. They try to do something, they got to course correct, and they are not where they need to be in order to help the people. This is why it's not why we have 42 billion people on the on SNAP, but this is why we say, hey, we can't dip into these emergency funds because we only have $6 billion of emergency funds for SNAP. Why do we only have $6 billion when we're giving $12 billion to farmers to bail them out for a bad decision? You're giving $40 billion to Argentina to do Forex. It just doesn't make sense. This entire house of cards at some point is going to fall. You know, we're $38 trillion in debt. We have money bleeding out our fucking ears. We're giving money to foreign countries, whether it be the bailout, whether that be people that are fighting wars. We're trying to start another war with Venezuela, essentially going to steal their oil. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? When is America going to be great again? When is the American citizen going to be able to win? It doesn't seem like it's going to happen under the Trump administration. So this is where we're going to end it. You guys let me know what you think. If you have any thoughts about the live stream, if you have any suggestions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. I absolutely love the feedback that I get on the channel. It's only to improve, right? I want to make sure that I'm coming with the best information, the best product, so that you guys are informed, entertained, and you come back, right? That we can build something here together. So next time, I will talk about this. Next time, we're going to talk about this boat that the Trump administration, this oil rig, this oil boat, whatever it is, that the Trump administration seized from Venezuela. We essentially are pirates now. We seized this boat that was carrying oil, which was the intention of the Trump administration from the very beginning when they started fucking with Venezuela. But that is a story for another day. I believe in German they say Auf Wiedersehen.